Thank you for joining us for another episode of This or That. Today we're going to talk about another common debate in reefing, which is all-in-one versus reef-ready systems. We're going to cover the key considerations to help you make the right decision for your setup. And again, I am joined by Mr. Brian and Josh. Brian, give us a rundown.
So yeah, I think first we'll just explain, I guess, or define what all-in-one versus a reef-ready system would be. So all-in-one, we're talking about that aquarium that has the chambers in the back, the filtration, the pumps, the overflow, all of that stuff is contained within that box. So it's a simple one-stop shop, right? You get into the reef-ready, or it's more like a component system. So you've got the tank, you've got the sump, pumps, plumbing, all that stuff. So it's a much more complex system. Not necessarily one or the other is either good or bad. I think it depends on the situation. And so we'll get into that. But what do you think, Josh?
I'm absolutely team reef ready. I like having the expandability, being able to choose my own adventure and just really customize what the system is going to do based off of my needs. I feel like that just gives me maximum amount of options.
Yeah, for me, especially, just as a more experienced hobbyist, I'm the same way. I like to have that flexibility to customize whatever I want. But there's definitely a place, I can see places where an AIO, an all-in-one system, would be preferred.
Sure. I think it's going to be a great topic because I am personally a fan of all-in-one systems, especially for beginners. So let's get into the considerations here. Space. This has got to go in your living room. Your spouse is going to see it. Your kids are going to be around it. So let's go into some pros and cons.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, with your all-in-one systems, you've got typically a very small space in which all that equipment sits, right? So I think you had a great name for it earlier. We were talking about this.
The cord octopus.
The cord octopus sticking out the back, right? So if this isn't a nice part of your house, this is in the front room or the living room, the foyer, where people come in and see it as they walk into the home, maybe having all those cords stringing around and the tubes and everything else coming out the back, not necessarily what you're going for.
True. And as far as space goes, I mean, all-in-one aquariums in these modern times are not simply just like the innovative marine 20, right? They can be big.
Yeah.
I mean, Red Sea makes some amazing all-in-one aquariums, as does Innovative Marine with their shallow reef series, all the way up to 120 gallons. So depending on what space you are working with, you can really run the gamut with an all-in-one or a reef ready.
Yeah.
Okay. I would agree. I think you mentioned modern times, modern equipment. There are ways around the cord mess. There are compact probe and dosing tube holders. There's different ways to route your power cords so you don't get the mess. Let's talk about experience level. I think each system really tailors itself towards one or the other, beginner versus expert.
If you're just starting into saltwater, or in aquariums in general, if this is your first tank that you're at and you're like, I want to see how this goes, an all-in-one is probably a really good choice because it's simple. There's a little less room for error. There's not as much plumbing, possibility for leaks, overflows, whatever the case might be. So an all-in-one might be a really great choice for somebody like that. Now, if you've got some experience in aquariums, whether it be saltwater fish only, freshwater, or whatever, you might be able to handle a reef ready. And of course, anybody that's been doing it for a while could probably manage. But if you're new to the hobby, an all-in-one is really a great starting point.
I like that you called out leaks, because your reef-ready system, that means you're going to be plumbing your tank. So not only is there the risk of when you're doing a water change, or there's also you need to make sure you plumb it right as well.
Yeah, and kind of going back to that whole experience, like one is for beginners, one is for experience. I think that area is a little bit more gray, to be perfectly honest, because as you pointed out at one point earlier today, it's like it depends on how well you know yourself, right? If you want to have just an easy on-ramp, all-in-one for sure. But if you're a tinker like me, I know Jason's a tinker, getting in there and doing some of this stuff, plumbing it, and picking out your own sump, that kind of stuff. I mean, that's an amazing path as well.
Absolutely, and it goes back to the aesthetics as well. Know yourself, right? If you're one of those people that isn't going to mess with cord management, I'm not going to mess with cord management. A reef ready with a sump and a nice stand around it to hide all that's probably the way to go, because I'll do some nice cord management. The first time I have to take them all apart to change something out, they will never go back in there.
So filtration, there's a big misconception that all-in-one tanks, you have less of a pathway to properly filter your tank. Why don't you two give me the Reef Ready pros, and then I'll tell you my thoughts on the all-in-ones.
All right. Well, I guess for starters, with a sump, you're going to be able to choose much bigger, much more efficient equipment. You can really dial in the size of your refugium depending on what kind of sump, whether it's going to be a factory pre-built that came with your system, or if you go with a dedicated sump manufacturer like Hamali or Trigger Systems. The possibilities are quite literally endless. You want to go with just standard 4-inch filter socks? There's an option for you. If you want to do a manual fleece roller, there's an option. Automatic fleece rollers, there's an option. And kind of in that same vein, there's also a variety of different refugium lights that you can really get your refugium fired up on.
Absolutely. And just having the flexibility to change, add new filtration, supplemental filtration, all that stuff. It gets easier and easier, in my opinion, with that increased volume and that nice big open space that you get with most of the Reef Ready systems.
Okay, so I will 100% agree. Your options are much wider with a Reef Ready setup. You have more space, you have more height within the stand. But I would say that modern products that have recently come out, such as automatic rollers from Innovative Marine. Innovative Marine also has a refugium light, which you can stick on the back of your all-in-one system. All sorts of new products that are out to help filter smaller tanks. That said, though, I think you can simplify it down to just running a refugium. You don't even have to bother with a lot of the nano protein skimmers for all-in-one tanks. If I were to set up a saltwater tank today in an all-in-one, it would be very basic with a high-performing refugium, just a little Kato, and one of the multitude of options of stick-on lights, and then you're set.
Absolutely.
Yep. So also, going back to getting your spouse on board with putting this in the room, there's a noise level to consider. There's also, we touched on aesthetic appeal. What do you think as far as which one's quieter, which one's more family-friendly?
Typically, your Reef Ready ones are going to be a little bit quieter. It depends. Again, back in the
Durso days?
In the old days, right? Yeah, exactly. The Durso standpipes. Those things sound like a toilet was flushing all the time, right? So it really depends. Things are a lot different now. So you're going to get a much quieter system. Typically, everything's going to be hidden in that sump down there at the bottom. In the evening, like say this is in the living room, or in your den, you're not getting that supplemental light coming off the refugium when you're trying to watch TV or something. So it's pros and cons there. I personally think that typically your Reef Ready systems are going to be quieter and just look nicer.
Okay, definitely. So this is going to lead me into a community question that we received. Can an all-in-one, I want to hear from you two on this, can an all-in-one handle a heavily stocked aquarium?
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. You just have to, again, it's same with a lot of these topics we talk about. It's all about knowing yourself. So if you know that you're not going to be able to keep up on your maintenance, don't stock your tank so much that you're going to have to, that it's going to struggle to keep up, right? If you stock it properly, or if you stock it full, you produce a massive bioload, you're just going to have to keep up on it. To increase water changes, monitor your feeding a little bit, more readily. So you just have to stay on top of it. You can do whatever you want. I mean, I have SPS grown in a 15-gallon tank. You can do it. It's just, it takes a little extra work.
Yeah, and I think that one of the best examples I can think of in regards to this is we, in conjunction with WWC, when we did the 750 with them, we also did a Red Sea E170 in the same format. So it was bare bottom, nice minimalist rock work, and it was just packed to the rim with gorgeous SPS colonies. It was one of the best tanks I've ever taken care of. And that stuff's not hard to do, but you can do it in small all-in-one style tanks.
Okay. Well, there's your answer. Well, I have a really, really good question that also came in. I'm going to have to read this one because it's pretty long, but I'm also going to pitch it over to you two. I've been researching what tank to buy for about a month. Seems to be the main gripe with all-in-ones is they do not have much. or if any, auto top off reservoir. It also seems like it would be more of a pain to expand to a controller or a system with dosing without making it ugly, which you two discussed quite a bit. I also worry about bioload from such a small protein skimmer on larger all-in-ones. But I'm new to this. If anyone has some input, that would be great.
Yeah, so it sounds like what I hear here is this person likes the idea of the all-in-one. You know, it's like, oh, that's great, sounds really easy, but isn't really sure that that's where they want to end up. So my best piece of advice I can give you is, if you're not sure, then go with the one that will fix those problems, right? If you're not sure that it's going to be enough filtration for what you want to do, if you're not sure it's going to be able to handle the protein skimmer or the other equipment that you want to put in there, go with the other system. So, because you can always take stuff off or remove things from your bigger system, but there's only so much you can do to that all-in-one at some point, right? You can't keep adding stuff to it.
Exactly. You are definitely eventually going to run out of room.
Yeah.
But, I mean, just about anything that you can put into a sump system, there's going to be some way around it with the all-in-one.
There is.
I mean, there's even fleece rollers, like you pointed out, from Innovative Marine now for their desktop aquariums.
Yep.
So there's workarounds for sure.
Absolutely.
So what we're hearing here is, if you already have an inkling of, you know, you might want a bigger tank, you're already you're ready to go with this, a reef ready system is probably the way to just start with. If you just want to start with a new aquarium, you want to try out saltwater tanks in general, an all-in-one, especially friendly to a budget. Just be smart about what you purchase. You might not need a skimmer at all. You can run a refugium, media reactors, different biomedias to offset the potential lack of options in filter equipment.
Right. And I'll say this as another thought to that too. I have never, in my experience anyway, talked to somebody who went, oh, I just have too much space in my aquarium.
Never heard
that. This is a fact, indeed.
So.
Yep. All right, so we hope that we've helped you a little bit decide on your next tank, whether it's an all-in-one or a reef ready system. We will see you again on the next episode of This or That.